Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Matt B. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Samuel Garcia, the governor of Nuevo Leon, who has said and predicted many things on Friday, said that on March 3rd, work at Tesla's factory in Mexico will begin, but he did not specify what type of work or whether they would be from the state or from Tesla itself. Any of that work by the state would be those infrastructure projects we have talked about where they're building some roads, highways, and bridges in the surrounding area. This could be many different types of work, and Garcia has been wrong with his predictions in the past, but something to note. The Model 3 Ludicrous, if we're going to go by the badge that was on this vehicle, was spotted in Valencia, Spain, with some professional level filming taking place, maybe for some promotional content. As you'll see in a second, clearly the group involved did not like this individual filming, so that ludicrous badge is not just a customer group slapping on an aftermarket badge. This does seem to be official. Tesla engineers have already said last year that Tesla did leave some things on the table with the old version of the Model 3 Performance variant. There have also been some complaints of the hardware being too similar to the long-range versions. We have to keep in mind, at the time of the Model 3 launch, Tesla was hyper-focused on the mass market appeal of the more base and long-range variants. Their entire business survival was based on those vehicles succeeding, so they couldn't dedicate proper resources to the performance variant. But now things are drastically different years later, so Tesla has the ability to focus on something special for the Model 3 Ludicrous or Performance, whatever they end up calling it. Here's a quick rundown of all of the rumored updates we've seen over the past year. A front splitter and a new front fascia. A splitter is basically just to balance the front and rear distribution of downforce. A new rear diffuser split into 3 different sections. Red brake calipers, a new spoiler, lower suspension, the new seats, potentially staggered wheels front to back, new wheels and new aero covers. And a big question, could this vehicle qualify for the IRA tax credits? The old Model 3 Performance did qualify, and given that this variant will be lower volume relative to the rear wheel drive and the long range, that means it'll need less cells. There's a chance the Model 3 rear wheel drive and long range may qualify for tax credits by the end of 2025, when that Panasonic cell factory comes online, supplying Tesla with more 2170 cells. The problem for the Model 3 variants that are available right now, the cells for those vehicles are coming from South Korea and China. But if Tesla can source enough supply from Giga Nevada of 2170s, the price should be under the $55,000 cap for the credit, so there is a chance. Personally, I think a lot of the magic of this vehicle may come from the suspension and the handling dynamics, some things on the software side that we just don't know about, that would ultimately make it more track capable as opposed to just straight line speed. I've seen some people out there saying they're expecting this car to do 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, but given that the Model S Plaid sits at 1.99 seconds, I do not think Tesla's going to do that. My guess for 0 to 60 of this car is going to be somewhere around the 2.5 second mark. For context, the old Model 3 Performance variant did it in 3.1 seconds. Arash on X shared this post that went viral saying the Cybertruck is California proof. The armored glass beats criminals trying their best to break in. And yes, this criminal was at one point on the roof of this Cybertruck. This guy had some sort of cutter that he was expecting to just cut the glass, and as he quickly learned, it was not that easy. Here he was caught jumping off of the vehicle. Now, yes, clearly some damage was done, but this guy was not ultimately able to get inside the vehicle. Here's the picture where he was trying to cut a hole through the roof. Unsuccessfully. Hopefully, if they haven't already, the internet and the police force can actually catch this clown. Then Matthew DR shared a post of a Cybertruck getting rear-ended with minimal damage. It just needed a new bumper. The Ram truck, however, that did the rear ending was totaled. Here's a better look at the damage to the Cybertruck, and the Ram truck not really living up to its name. Rohan Patel said, "No doubt we will sell the Cybertruck in Canada. Insanely huge interest. We have to file some routine paperwork, but hoping that can be wrapped up soon. Unfortunately, this is Tesla's favorite undefined word." Kodak Lens on Instagram posted a photo of a matte black Cybertruck and tagged Jay-Z. That image was posted by the VP of Rock Nation, so now the word is that Jay-Z and Beyonce also own a Cybertruck. We knew the Cybertruck was going to be an icon-type vehicle, but there are already some very heavy hitters as new owners in just the first few weeks. 7.5 thousand people liked this picture of a baby blue Cybertruck, so I'm wondering, what do you guys think about this color? We had Dan Neal, a writer for the Wall Street Journal, actually sing the Cybertruck's praises, so he didn't say anything that we don't already know, but the news here is that somebody from the Wall Street Journal was speaking very positively about Tesla and the Cybertruck. The TLDR of what Dan Neal said in his piece: this is a phenomenal piece of engineering. Responding to Holmar's saying the Cybertruck is a hit, Elon said, until you drive it, you don't realize how fun it is. And we got this picture of a gloss white Cybertruck, which I am very confident my wife would also be a huge fan of. I have to admit, I don't mind that myself. A Cybertruck Owners Club member said Tesla is currently manufacturing roughly 80 Cybertrucks per day. This comes from a friend of a friend who actually works in the Cybertruck assembly plant. Just one more anecdote, take all of this as always with a grain of salt, but this user on X said, I met a guy about a week ago that works at the Austin factory and he said they're making 60 per day. So whether it's 60, whether it's 80, whether those are burst rates or sustained rates, we don't know for sure, but what we do know is progress is being made. We don't have all of the details about this one, so I would proceed cautiously, but Arthur on X was sharing a video from this user where his FSD-12 was navigating a parking lot. It did actually drive into a parked vehicle, hitting its rear bumper. Here's the video. The driver was saying that he thought the Tesla vehicle was going to stop, reverse, and do a 3-point turn, but as far as we know, FSD-12 still does not go in reverse, and as I say every single time, the driver is ultimately always responsible. He should have not let it get as close as it did, and this could have been avoided. At the same time though, this is a great reminder to never let yourself become too complacent, no matter how well FSD-12 has been performing. Sometimes I think we can all agree we love to see people spouting nonsense get dunked on. Dan O'Dowd was up to his usual foolishness talking about Tesla and Elon, and then Aaron Wolf responded. He shared some brutal images of an accident saying, my kids still have a mom because of Tesla and Elon when this Chevy passed illegally over the double yellow line, slammed head into her Model X going 75, she walked away, and tragically, the young man driving the truck died at the scene. 3 years FSD, it's very, very safe. Now, I don't know if FSD was active or not in this scenario, but the point here is not about FSD, it's about the overall safety of Tesla vehicles. There are countless stories like this, where had they not been in a Tesla, the passengers may not have survived. Then Rohan Patel had a slight dunk of his own, saying, but I'm tired of the announcements of the new EV models and press releases about EV investments by manufacturers who then spend huge amounts of lobbying dollars to weaken pollution standards in market after market. Generally, these polluters have not been very successful, but their tactics to weaken pollution standards directly lead to an anti-EV public debate. Certainly frustrating, but when you understand the reality that all of these legacy OEMs, if they start making more EVs and lose billions of dollars, those sales will, guess what, eat into their sales and ultimately profits of their core ICE business. They're really just stuck in a lose-lose situation, and as you'll see later in the video, VW execs are saying exactly that. Charlie Bolello dropped in with the updated average price of a used Tesla chart. We're now at 19 months in a row where the price of a used Tesla has continuously dropped. We're now sitting at $32,984. I'm not going to read you the list of why this is happening because I've covered this in videos in the past, but here they are on screen, so pause and read if you'd like. Here's some cold hard evidence that Tesla is actively listening to the community regardless of what people may say. John from Dr. Know-It-All gave some feedback for the supercharger team, suggesting some features he'd love to see, like the ability to prefer 250 kilowatt supercharger locations, having a clock time rather than just how many minutes remaining before it's done charging. To which Martin Vieca responded saying, I especially like the departure time suggestion, great idea, the team has your list. So not only are Tesla executives monitoring feedback from customers online, but more importantly, Tesla has the ability to actually implement these changes with their computer on wheels. Other automakers now are also touting their OTA updates, but when you actually look at what their capability is versus what Tesla can do, it's not even in the same realm. Publication Car Up is already saying that Tesla Sweden might be on track for a record 2024. Personally, I think that's a bit premature, but as of late February, Tesla Sweden has delivered 1.54 thousand cars to customers, more than double the same time last year. Just an encouraging data point given the EF Metall strike is still ongoing and accelerating. No worries, we're not going to get into the buyback or not debate. Just wanted to highlight Larry Goldberg had a very solid post over the weekend laying out a rationale for why Tesla may not be eager to do a buyback. Basically, given all of the future business lines Tesla is in the midst of developing, clearly some of these business lines like next-gen car factories, the new semi-factory, roadster development, more megapack factories, Optimus production equipment, and then Larry didn't even mention things like Tesla's spend for compute power for AI training. Again, as Elon recently said on an X Spaces, we may be looking at double-digit billions in terms of spend from Tesla just for AI compute in the next few years to remain at the top of the field. And if you go back to Tesla's Investor Day slide deck, you'll see we expect our pace of investment to scale with operating cash flow growth. So to reach that 20 million annual vehicle production number, Tesla is estimating having to spend between $150 and $175 billion of total investment, $28 billion of which they've already spent. We know Tesla has around $29 billion in cash and cash equivalents, but what nobody really mentions is that Tesla also has total current liabilities of $28.7 billion. Just to be thorough, Tesla's total current assets sit at $49.6 billion. And subtracting the total current liabilities from the total current assets would give you your working capital, which for Tesla sits at around $21 billion. I think those arguing for buybacks would point to the fact that Tesla has not had a negative free cash flow quarter since Q1 of 2020. What that means is that for almost 3 years now, Tesla has been self-funding itself, so it's bringing in enough income from operations to continue to spend all of its capital expenditures and still be left with free cash flow left over each quarter. So if that trend continues, then Tesla's cash balance should not actually come down unless they do something like pay off debt or something else. However, the counter argument would then go, well, in the future, if Tesla's free cash flow dips negative for a few quarters, whether it's because of the economy, a failed product launch, spending too much, and not hitting efficiencies of scale soon enough, whatever the reason, then Elon and Tesla don't ever want to be in a situation where they were forced to raise capital at potentially unfavorable interest rates. The main reason I wanted to share that is because I see a world where in the next 2 to 3 years, Tesla's annual capex goes from around 10 billion up to 15 or 20 billion very quickly. Sawyer highlighted some 2024 model parts content for Tesla vehicles coming from US and Canada. Just wanted to highlight for the Model 3 long range, it's now at 35% for 2024 compared to 75% last year, which, as you may be guessing, is most likely primarily driven from Tesla switching from 2170 cells from Panasonic to 2170s from LG in South Korea. Deliveries of the Model 3 Plus in Canada are set to begin in the next few weeks as the first batch of cars from China arrived in Vancouver over the weekend. While the ship may have arrived in BC, it looks like none of the deliveries will be going to customers in BC, at least not for now. S&P just put out its 28th annual Automotive Loyalty Awards for 2023, and no surprise, Tesla brought home some more hardware. I don't think they get any actual hardware, but you know what I was saying. For 2023, the Tesla brand scored repeat wins for overall loyalty to make, highest conquest percentage, alternative powertrain loyalty to make, and ethnic market loyalty to make. Here's the full list, and for the overall loyalty to manufacturer, the winner was GM, winning for multiple years in a row. The awards reflect an analysis of 12.6 million new retail vehicle registrations in the US during 2023. Loyalty is determined when a household that owns a new vehicle returns to market, and acquires another new vehicle of the same make, model, or manufacturer. The executive vice president of BYD, Stella Li, had some interesting comments about Tesla.
We feel like we have a high respect for Tesla. They are marketing leader. They give a great education for the market. Without them, I think the global EV market could not run so rapidly. So we will respect them a lot. I think they are a partner, and also they are we together, we can really help the whole world to educate the market, to pushing the market for transaction, and pushing the whole auto industry to transact to the future electric car.
What do you tell that driver that's looking at these two cars? You're saying that BYD is a tech company. Elon Musk says Tesla is a tech company as well. Yeah. What's the value proposition? What is the BYD car in comparison to the biggest competitor out there, which is Tesla?
That's a very interesting question. I asked our team in China, because Tesla is very successful in China. The overlap for BYD and Tesla customer is less than 15%. Less than 15%. So you can see we don't need even to convince them, because we only have an overlap of 15%. All the EV company, we are the partner. Our real competition is ICE car company. ICE car is not EV. Yeah. The more people jump in to produce EV, PHEV, is better for the industry.
Renault just announced its new R5. As far as I know, this is just for the European market. I have not found anything about this ever coming to the United States. The first version that'll launch in the second half of this year will have a 52 kilowatt hour battery with a range of around 249 miles. They said it'll be followed as quickly as possible by a less powerful 40 kilowatt hour version, getting around 189 miles of range for about $27,000. BYD's Yangwang brand just unveiled the U9 that will be exclusively for the Chinese market and will start around $233,000. It's supposed to compete against Ferrari and Lamborghini. Yangwang is already selling its U8. They've sold about 3.6 thousand as of the end of January. That one goes for about $153,000. Today, GM announced its direct-to-consumer sales of the Cadillac Lyriq will start March 23rd in France. This is the third market in Europe for GM's direct-to-consumer Cadillac business. I'm not enjoying sharing this to make a point, but it was reported that Subaru restarted production in Japan after an on-the-job death resulted in a week-long suspension and lost output of about 20,000 vehicles. The way this accident happened was pretty gruesome and a painful reminder that the business of making vehicles can be fairly dangerous. We also know that if something like this were to happen at Tesla, it would be headline news at every station for at least a week. It's now official. We have a U.S. manufacturing advocacy group urging the Biden administration to raise the tariffs on Chinese imports up from 27.5% where they stand now. That's the number for Chinese vehicles, but clearly the industry is concerned that the Chinese are putting plans in place to come into the United States, most likely through Mexico. Very important that you know there was a happy ending to that Tesla Pi story. Over the weekend, apparently hundreds of customers showed up at the shop after hearing about the story, and they also received many donations. A Tesla manager has also offered to pay and reimburse her for the $2,000 worth of supplies, and Tesla offered the owner a new catering job for 3,600 mini pies for Women's Day in March. But for now, she had to turn that down because of all of the other business she ended up getting. If you're new and you haven't been following Tony Seba, the time is probably now. He has made some incredible predictions over the past decade that most of which have come true. In 2014, he predicted the market would offer a 200-mile EV for $11,000 by 2025, and BYD and some other Chinese OEMs are 1 year ahead of that curve. That's a very important narrative not to forget. With all of this talk about EV sales slowing, over years there's going to be pockets of demand based on macro factors and availability, but ultimately, as long as the cost of batteries continues this downward ascent and the production of batteries continues to increase, we should be sitting pretty for the years ahead. Another reminder of sorts, Elon replied to Peggy on X saying interesting to his post talking about Tesla making around $7,000 gross profit per EV sold, BYD at $1,300, and a few other automakers deeply in the red. Here we have some fiery comments from VW's brand executive Thomas Schaefer. These comments coming from a confidential event about the current status and future of VW. His findings: VW is facing by far the most difficult phase in its recent company history. A history that we can't forget also included Dieselgate. One of the managers listening to his comment said, "I often couldn't believe my ears. Many of his messages were so explosive and worrying." Although Thomas appeared confident as usual, the seriousness of the situation was still evident in his face. Schaefer said the company is in a precarious situation. And he wants to halve the number of overtime hours at VW, saying, "We have an unbelievable number of hours of extra work on which we spend millions and millions of euros." Schaefer is said to have ruthlessly disclosed grievances in an internal briefing, and the employees are unsettled. When it comes to the performance program, which is VW's cost-cutting measures over the next few years, he said they cannot waste any time. The brand boss painted a bleak picture of the global economic situation, which is reducing the willingness to spend money. He said there are crazy things going on in China and at Tesla, referring to Tesla's repeated price cuts. "If we don't do anything, it'll become increasingly difficult to present our successes." There have been reports that 20% of jobs in this indirect sector, in which 20,000 people are employed, were to be cut. Employees in the areas of administration, sales, development, and production should be explicitly affected. He said there are too many committees and decision-making levels, aka too much bureaucracy. In order to save costs, the brand boss also advocates consistently outsourcing repetitive activities that are not core business. Certain activities should be relocated to the best cost countries. Translation: VW is in full-blown panic mode. You've probably seen this by now, but one of the Tesla engineers shared that this is their fastest gate ever for Optimus at 0.6 meters per second, over 30% speed boost since their last video in December. They've improved their vestibular system, their foot trajectory, and their ground contact logic. They've upgraded their motion planner and made cuts to the loop latency across the bot. Optimus is more stable and more confident overall, even during turns. We also added a slight torso and arms sway. Milan said, "If these challenges speak to you, join our amazing controls team." We don't know for sure if this was being teleoperated, if it was being remote controlled, or if this was actually in a fully autonomous mode and following a specific path. Look, don't worry, I'm not going to be that guy spamming his Tesla referral link everywhere, but now that I do have one, finally, a few of you have already reached out and asked, so just to make things easy, it'll always be in the description below, and on X, you can click it right through my link tree in my bio. And to anybody who considers using it, thank you. Tesla stock closed the day at $199.40, up 3.87%, while the Nasdaq was down 0.13%. But we had Rivian, Lucid, and Polestar all up over 4% on the day. It was an average volume day for Tesla, trading about 3 million shares above the average 30-day volume. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. You can find me on X, linked below. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.